Hey guys, welcome to the new format of Now That's Debatable. This is going to be about a 10, max 15 minute video between Tribolet and I, just discussing some things that we've had discussions on, some things that we want to put out a little easier to digest in a quick format segment. Please let us know if you're liking the format, if you like the way the new format sits. But in this very first one, which we could go into really long deep dives, so we're going to try to limit ourselves to that, few minutes of time that we're going to give you guys today. But we're going to talk about presuppositionalism. So, Triple A, do you want to kind of take us off and let's get this thing a go and kind of talk about why it's so debatable and why the topic is, what your thoughts are on the topic?
Yeah, so yeah, presuppositionalism is instead of using sort of your evidentiary arguments, they use they essentially say that God is the uh presupposition for he's a precondition for intelligibility. So like in order to make any sense of anything, then that you'll have to have a God. So like in order to have truth, knowledge, and all sorts of things. And so I, I had you remember the last episode we had a reformed apologist on
Yep.
A-Dub, if you watched it. And so I had a argument that I thought was rock solid, that was irrefutable, and I still think it is. I think the unfortunate part was that uh, we spent probably about 40 minutes just explaining the first part, and so we never got through the argument. And we got stuck not on an issue that was contentious. It was just something really simple just wasn't being understood. And so um my argument was simply that the truth is that which comports to reality. And so that is a definition of truth that most people would use. Like even most philosophers use it, but in general, this is what people use. Like if I ask my daughter, "Did you clean your room?" I want to know if in fact she cleaned her room. So I want to know if that statement actually comports with the actual state of affairs. So that is truth, that which comports to reality. And so the next part of the argument was reality necessarily exists. If there if there is no reality, then you're saying reality is a non-reality. So in this sense, A would equal non-A. Reality equals non-reality. It violates the law of identity. So it doesn't matter what the the nature of the reality is. It necessarily has to exist. And then from there, so since we know that there is a reality, there are certain propositions that has to necessarily be true about it. For instance, that it is true, it is necessarily true that that reality either contains apples or do not contain apples. So that is a true dichotomy. It is necessarily true. So that there is so there you have it. You have truth without the need for a God or literally anything. If reality exists, there are true things about it. That
So
was
let me
the
just take you back just to play devil's advocate a little bit, and I want to
yeah.
say, so it sounds like we have a three-step plan, but I want to just narrow and focus in on one thing because I think it's the most important. Is why do you think reality necessarily exists?
Because so reality necessarily has to exist because it would violate the law of identity. Because reality would be reduced to a fiction. Reality would be fake. And so
So
real
I mean, like, what about in the sense of like our reality is a computer program, or we're part of like an alien ant farm experiment? So to
yeah,
use the really common issues of like
sure.
Matrix.
And that's the cool thing. So it doesn't matter what the nature of reality is. So whether it's just a simulation or whether it's made of physics or whatever, there are necessarily true things about it, and that's where the true dichotomy comes in. Whether it's a simulation or it doesn't matter what the nature of the reality is, it either contains apples or do not contain apples. That is necessarily true, regardless of the nature of that reality.
Right, so even if the apples are simulated or part of just your consciousness or a stream of
Yes,
consciousness or stream of thought, the apples exist at least in the context of that reality.
yeah, well, or they don't exist.
Right.
So either way, so if you want to say, oh, that reality is just a simulation, and so there's not really apples there, cool. Then there's no apples. Then the dichotomy is still true,
Right,
whether
it's
they're there
still
or not.
unbroken.
Yes, there's no way out of this, and so the absence of a god does not make that dichotomy false. And this is what I was trying to get the guests to do. I wanted them to explain why what the absence of a god, how an absence of a god would make that the syllogism false. And
Right. So in the cases of where we have the law of excluded middle, which is the second law of logic, the three basic laws of logic being identity, excluded middle, and non-contradiction, and the
mhm.
instances in which we have the second law, which is the law of excluded middle, you can then glean truth specifically because that law exists.
Yes, yes, exactly. That was the point. That was the point. So reality necessarily exists. There are true things, period, and that is a true. The true thing you could do. The true thing you could say is the true dichotomy.
Right.
So
So we just give an example of a true dichotomy. We have truth irrelevant or irrespective of whether a deity exists, the nature of the reality in which we use the dichotomy. No matter what the scenario is, it seems that we have a way to truth, at least some truth. May not be some great claim,
mhm.
but I mean, we can know something is indeed true because we have something that definitely is, which is a
Yeah,
reality, and we have
yes.
the law of the law of excluded middle, saying that something either is or is not.
Yeah, and so you know what? So and that was there was another hang up because he kept conflating truth with knowledge,
Mm,
and this was frustrating because we both took turns at this trying to demonstrate this how something can be true even if nobody knows it. And so I tried to use some space analogies, and that he said that he got lost on that. And then you use your sock example, and so I mean the fact of the matter is, like, unless you're going to say that reality itself is altered based on your knowledge of it, then of course things are true without people knowing it, right?
yeah, I mean, to me that it was so baffling and so it was frustrating, and it's not frustrating that we were like losing ground or that we weren't making progress in the argument, but what was frustrating is that it seems so obvious that you can have truth irrespective of a god. Like if something does exist, and I think my sock example was just, I thought it was a stroke of brilliance to just make it really, really easy. It is either true that I am wearing socks, or it is either not true that I am wearing socks. Like that was the example I
Yes,
gave in the video. One of those things, no matter what, is a true statement because
yes.
there
Let's
is
say there
no alternative.
exactly. Let's say there's no God, and you need gods in order to exist. Well, okay, if there's no God and therefore facade doesn't exist, then he's not wearing
Then I'm not wearing
socks.
socks.
So
Yeah,
it's true. There's
yeah.
no way around this. And that's like, let's say there is no God. Is it true that there's no God? Yeah.
Yeah. And if there is a God, is
This
it?
is-
I mean, like you still have the same
if there is a
dichotomy.
God, is it true that there's a God? Yes,
Yeah,
there is. There's no way around it. There either is. That's what I'm saying. Like, this was to me that was the death knell for the presuppositional argument, because what they argue is that you can't have truth without God, and this demonstrates that you definitely can. So if you're reformed apologist, if you believe in this presuppositional nonsense, hit us up, come on the show.
There's
Now
your
you know the
challenge.
argument. Yeah, you understand the argument. Come on. Like,
And by the way,
bring it
this
on.
is an excellent prep work for you. Here, the prep
Yes.
work is all laid out because the whole argument has been summed up in 10 minutes. So if you're a presup and you're watching this video and you think you can take us on or you think you can unravel this argument, come on the show, be one of our guests, and take this into an hour-long conversation with us or more, instead of this 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, we gave you 3 steps to destroy presuppositionalism.
Yes.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the new style format where we take on topics just like this, and in 10 minutes we show you how to destroy a silly notion of presuppositionalism. See you guys next week.